Hey guys, it's Darwin, and yeah, I bought another new tent. So for the first time in about 2 years, I bought a new shelter system, and it is not made by Z-Packs. For quite some time now, people have been asking me if I had ever tried or had any plans on trying the new Tarptent Aeon lithium tent, basically because I've used the Z-Packs Plexamid, and they're pretty similar in a few ways. Well, ever since Tarptent put out their one-person DCF one trekking pole tent, I've had my eye on it, but I can never get one because they're always out of stock. Recently, I was cruising around on their website. They had a couple. I bought one finally, and I think that I'm going to start using it. If you guys have been following me over on my Instagram, you'll know that recently I have been trying to search for a new shelter system to use next year for my 500 to 700 mile section hike of the AT and the 2 big through hikes that I have coming up later that summer. And I already have a bunch of other shelters, from my Z-Packs Duplex to my Plexamid to my Hexamid Pocket Tarp to even 2 older big Agnes tents that I've still held on to. But I wanted to try something different from a different cottage company that was designed a little bit different, to not only test it, but tell you guys about it and just expand my horizons, if you will. Now, before we go any further, I gotta say I'm not sponsored or affiliated with Tarptent in any way. I wasn't asked to make this review. I bought this tent with my own money, and I had to wait just like everybody else to get it. And before we go over my first thoughts and what I like and what I don't like about this tent right off the bat, let's go over the specs. So the Aeon Lithium is a one-person, one trekking pole DCF tent. So it's made out of Dyneema composite or Cuban fiber. It uses one trekking pole or one tent pole to set it up and tension from the guy lines, so it is not a freestanding tent. It is fully enclosed, meaning that it has mesh going all the way around it, and a single vestibule with 2 storm doors. The Aeon Lithium features a really cool feature that I've never seen on any other tent, and that is 2 corner vents that you can open and close to help with ventilation with the tent. And because of those corner vents, the Aeon has 5 carbon struts that go on the corners to help create those vents. So even though it is a 1-pole tent, technically it has those 5 carbon poles, so it's a 6-pole tent. Regardless, it has those 5 carbon struts. And Tarptent claims that it will fit hikers up to 7 feet tall. On my scale, the Aeon Lithium comes out to exactly 16 ounces, right on the nose, which isn't bad considering it has those 5 carbon struts. And the price on this bad boy, if you can get one in stock, is $535. Now, that price does include the DCF stuff sack that it comes with, and something that I've never seen any other cottage company do, which is give you all the stakes that you need to set it up. So typically I do my gear reviews after using a product for at least like 1,000 miles on the trail, but because this is a new tent for me, a lot of people have been asking about it, and I plan on using it quite a bit. I figured I would do a first thoughts and first impressions before I take it out and put a bunch of miles on it next year. And I've taken it out a handful of times, I've set it up a handful of times, and I've slept in it one night, so I think that I have enough opinion to share my thoughts. So first off, I gotta say I really dig that Tarptent is trying to go after the taller hikers. One of the problems that I had with my Z-Packs Plexamid is I am 6'1", and I felt like my foot box and my head were always touching the ends. Well, again, Tarptent claims that this will fit hikers up to 7 feet tall. It is definitely longer inside than my Plexamid, and my toe box doesn't touch the wall. But I'm still not sure that a hiker 7 foot tall or even 6'8" could fit inside of this tent. One of the things that Tarptent decided not to do was put on end guy lines that actually help pull out the head end and the foot end, and I feel like that really helps kind of extend that internal room. So again, I'm not sure if a hiker up to 6'8" could fit inside of this tent, and maybe that's just because I haven't set it up enough times. I haven't figured out how to get the optimal room inside, but that is one thing that I wanted to note right off the bat. Definitely more room than my Plexamid, but maybe not enough room for somebody 6'8". Let's see, the next thing I wanted to talk about that I noticed right off the bat for how different the vestibule is. Again, I'm used to using that Z-Packs vestibule, their storm doors, how it closes, how it functions. And one thing that I really like that Tarptent did with this is something that I kind of thought was a gimmick in the beginning, and that is the fact that they used magnets for their door closures. Now, if you've ever woke up in the middle of the night and you've tried to close your storm doors because the wind was getting bad or because you knew it was going to rain, and you've had to mess with those little toggles or those little dongles or whatever you want to call them, and the little loop system to roll the door back, they are a pain when you're half awake or whenever it's freezing cold and your hands are numb. Well, what Tarptent decided to do was add magnets to the little closures. So it's a little bitty feature, but it is so much nicer just to be able to roll that door back and slap the magnet into place. Now, I kind of wish that they would have done that going all the way down the door. So another thing that Tarptent added to their storm door was something that I'm honestly not a big fan of, and that is Velcro. Now, with these tension tents and those vestibule doors, typically they lay over top of each other and they stay there because of the tension on the front. So to me, putting the Velcro on there just kind of seems redundant. Plus, in the long run, in my experience, Velcro on doors gets nasty and dirty and sandy and gross, and eventually it doesn't stick. So I guess we'll have to see in the long run how these hold up. The next big thing that you notice right off the bat with the Aeon over some of the other single wall, one trekking pole DCF tents on the market is, I think, what Tarptent was really trying to go after with this tent, and that is ventilation. So not only do you have those little side vents that I'll talk about here in a second, but there's also a vent at the top of the vestibule by the peak. So now you're letting air into the front, under the bottom, you're letting air into the top, and letting air into those side vents, which is letting the tent breathe. One of the biggest problems that everybody has with single wall tents is condensation. So I think that Tarptent is really trying to go after figuring that out and giving more ventilation for a single wall shelter. The one night that I've taken this tent out and slept in it, I had no condensation and I did have my vents open. Now granted, that was in Arizona where it's pretty dry, but hopefully it helps with condensation in just about every environment. And speaking of those side vents, the last thing that I want to talk about are the carbon rods that they inserted into the tent to help keep the rigidity and create those vents. Now, if you guys remember in my Plexamid review that I did a couple months ago, one of the biggest complaints from a lot of people and one of the biggest issues with that tent were the 2 carbon stays that they put in the top of the tent to create the bridge. Now, even though I never had an issue with mine, that was a big issue for a lot of people. So, to be honest, it kind of freaks me out that there are 5 carbon stays with this. Again, I haven't had an issue. I haven't heard of anyone having an issue with this tent, but I gotta say, that does freak me out just a little bit. And because of those carbon rods, the tent does not get any smaller than this, which is a massive issue for me. Like my Plexamid, one of my biggest complaints was the packability of that tent. Because of those rods, you couldn't stuff it down any smaller. So here is my Z-Packs Duplex. Here is the new Tarptent Lithium. That's as small as it packs down. And it doesn't look like it's that big. And for some people, they put the tent in their side pocket or they put it standing up in their pack. I put all of my shelters laying down like this. So this fits inside of my pack. This does not fit inside of my pack. It's too wide. So that's still something I'm trying to figure out. And even though you can take those carbon rods out, it's kind of a pain to have to put those in and out every single time that you set up the tent. So over time, we'll see if that's a super nuisance. We'll see if that's a deal breaker on the tent. But for now, I really do like the added benefit of the ventilation, being able to open and close those vents. But hate that they used carbon rods and that I can't make it any smaller than that. All right, so again, this is just a first look and first thoughts on the Tarptent Aeon Li. Just like all the other gear reviews that I do, I plan on putting a bunch of miles on this over the next year, and then I'll be able to give you my final thoughts, my full review, what I like, what I don't like, what worked, what didn't work about this guy. But overall, I really dig this right off the bat. Even though it has those little quirks, like the carbon stays, like it not packing down any smaller, I'm definitely looking forward to using this tent. It is very well designed, well made, the stitching's great, the quality is phenomenal, and I think something that Tarptent has really become known for over the years is all those little attentions to detail, like those magnetic doors, like those side vents. And typically, I'm not a person that likes bells and whistles on a tent, but I feel like Tarptent is really trying to fix some of those common problems that all of us have with single wall tents. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying this over the next year. Have you recently picked up a new shelter or tent to try out on the trail? Do you have a shelter that is on your gear wish list that you're trying out in the future? Leave me something down below and let me know your thoughts. If you found any value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and as always guys, thanks for watching.